Good evening, dear listener, and may your night be wrapped in peace. Picture yourself in a quiet moment, the world hushed, as if time itself has paused to breathe. Imagine a gentle breeze whispering through ancient olive groves, carrying the scent of earth and distant seas. See the moonlight spilling over weathered stone, bathing a Roman villa in silver, its walls holding stories older than the stars. Tonight, we'll wander through one such story, a single day in the life of a Roman slave, 100 BC. It's a tale of labor and quiet defiance, of small hopes woven into the grind of a world not their own. Let's step softly into this ancient rhythm, where every task, every breath, tells a tale. Close your eyes, and let's begin. Part 1. The world is soft and quiet as you open your eyes, the kind of quiet that feels like a held breath. A faint glow of dawn slips through the narrow slits of the slave quarters walls, painting the rough stone with streaks of gold. You lie on a thin straw mat, the scent of damp earth and stale sweat curling around you. Somewhere outside, a rooster crows, sharp and insistent, as if it knows the day's labor waits for no one, not even you. You shift, your muscles aching from yesterday's work, and the coarse wool of your tunic scratches against your skin. This is Rome. 100 BC, and you are a slave in a sprawling villa on the outskirts of the city. Your life is not your own, but tonight, as the stars fade, let's walk through this day together, step by weary step, and find some calm in its rhythm. You rise, your bare feet meeting the cold dirt floor. The quarters are cramped, a low-roofed room where a dozen others stir, their breaths mingling in the dim air. There's a faint clatter of clay bowls as someone fumbles for water. You don't speak, there's no need. The routine is etched into your bones. You splash your face from a chip basin, the water cool and slightly brackish, like a memory of the sea you crossed years ago to reach this place. Your stomach grumbles. But breakfast is a distant promise, perhaps a scrap of bread if the overseer is feeling generous. For now you tie back your hair, if it's long enough, or rub your eyes if it's not, and step into the morning. Outside, the villa is waking. The air carries the scent of olive groves and freshly turned soil, a reminder of the fields you'll soon tend. You glance at the sky, streaked with pink, and wonder if the gods are watching. Probably not. They seem busy with the masters, not the likes of you. You chuckle softly to yourself, imagining Jupiter misplacing his lightning bolt like a senator losing his stylus. The thought fades as you hear the overseer's bark, his voice cutting through the dawn like a whip. "Move, you lot!" he shouts, and you shuffle toward the courtyard, joining the line of slaves assigned to the day's first tasks. Your job this morning is to fetch water from the well, a task as old as the hills around you. The well is a stone's throw from the villa, its mouth framed by moss-slicked rocks. You heft a wooden bucket, its handle worn smooth by countless hands, and lower it into the dark. The rope creaks, and the bucket returns heavy, sloshing with water that catches the sunrise like a mirror. You carry it back, your shoulders straining, careful not to spill a drop. The mistress hates waste, and you've seen what happens to those who test her patience. Once, a girl dropped a jug, and the shards were left in the courtyard for days. A silent warning. You'd rather not star in that story. The villa's courtyard is a hive of activity now. Slaves scurry like ants, hauling firewood, sweeping dust, or carrying trays of figs to the kitchen. You pour your water into a massive clay cistern, its surface rippling under your gaze. A fellow slave, a wiry man named Gaius, nudges you. "Heard the master's expecting guests," he whispers, his eyes darting toward the overseer. "Means more work for us." You nod, unsurprised. Roman hospitality is a grand affair, but it's built on your sweat. Gaius grins, showing a missing tooth. "Bet they'll want that fancy fish sauce again. Smells like Neptune's armpit." You stifle a laugh, picturing the garum vats you once passed. Oh, the stench could wake a coma patient. This villa, like many in the Roman Republic, thrives on slave labor. Historical records, pieced together from inscriptions and texts like those of Cato the Elder, show that rural estates often house dozens of slaves, each assigned to specific roles: field hands, cooks, weavers, or even tutors. Your role shifts with the day's demands, a flexibility that keeps you useful and, frankly, alive. The Romans are practical. They don't waste resources, even human ones. But don't mistake this for kindness. Your value is tied to your output, and the moment you falter, there's a market in Rome ready to trade you for a newer model. As you haul another bucket, you notice a peculiar sight: a small clay charm, shaped like a foot, dangling from the well's rope. It's a votive offering, likely left by a slave praying for safe travels or, more likely, an end to blistered feet. Such charms are common, tucked into corners of the villa like secrets. They speak of a quiet faith, one that doesn't reach the grand temples but lingers in the margins. You touch it briefly, wondering who left it. Maybe that girl who limps, the one who carries laundry? You'll never ask. Questions invite attention, and attention invites trouble. The sun climbs higher, warming the stones beneath your feet. You pause to wipe sweat from your brow, the bucket heavy in your hands. The overseer's shadow looms nearby, his whip coiled like a sleeping snake. You don't meet his eyes. Instead, you focus on the rhythm of your steps, the slosh of water, the distant hum of cicadas. It's a small rebellion, this turning inward, but it's yours. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves found solace in such moments, or if every act was tainted by fear. Did you carve out scraps of peace? Or was survival your only song? For now you walk, and the day unfolds. You return to the cistern, pouring another load. The courtyard is louder now, filled with the clatter of carts and the low chatter of slaves. You catch a whiff of baking bread from the kitchen, a cruel tease for your empty stomach. Gaius sidles up again, muttering about a new slave who tried to run last week. Caught before he reached the Tiber, he says, shaking his head. Fool thought he could outrun a horse. You wince, imagining the punishment. Runaways are branded, or worse, their fate a lesson for the rest. You'd rather dream of freedom than chase it. At least dreams don't leave scars. The morning stretches on, each trip to the well a mirror of the last. Your arms ache, but you keep moving, blending into the villa's pulse. You think of the garum again and smile faintly. If the gods made fish sauce, would they apologize for the smell? It's a silly thought, but it carries you through another step. The day is young, and there's work to be done. You glance at the sky, now a bright, unyielding blue, and wonder what the hours will bring. For now, you carry the bucket, and the world keeps turning. Part 2. The sun is higher now, its warmth seeping into the courtyard stones as you set down the last bucket of water. Your shoulders throb, but there's no time to linger. The overseer's voice cracks through the air, sharp as a snapped branch, calling you to new tasks. You wipe your hands on your tunic, the rough fabric catching on calluses, and hurry toward the villa's inner rooms. The scent of olive oil and dust trails you, mingling with the faint sweetness of ripening figs from the garden. It's a Roman morning, busy and unyielding, and you, a slave in this grand villa of 100 BC, move with the quiet precision of someone who knows the cost of a misstep. Let's drift through these hours, soft as a whisper, and find the rhythm of your day. You're assigned to cleaning now, a task that feels like chasing the wind. The villa's floors are a mosaic of tiny colored tiles, their patterns swirling like rivers underfoot. You kneel, a coarse rag in hand, and scrub at smudges left by careless sandals. The tiles are cool against your knees, a small mercy in the growing heat. Nearby, another slave, a woman with gray streaks in her hair, polishes a bronze lamp until it gleams. You exchange a glance, silent but heavy with understanding. Words are spare here, they're for the masters, not for you. Still, you notice her hum, a low, tuneless melody that feels like defiance wrapped in calm. The room you're cleaning is the atrium, the heart of the villa, where sunlight pours through an open roof onto a shallow pool below. The water shimmers, catching flecks of dust that dance like stars. You dip your rag into a clay bowl of vinegar. Its sharp tang stinging your nose, and work at a stubborn stain. The overseer paces nearby, his sandals slapping the floor. He doesn't speak, but his presence is a weight, pressing you to move faster. You imagine him tripping over a stray tile, his whip tumbling into the pool. The thought makes you smirk. Oh, wouldn't that be a sight? But you keep your head down, your hands steady. This atrium, with its frescoed walls and marble statues, is a testament to Roman wealth. Historical accounts, like those from Vitruvius, describe how elite villas were designed to impress, their atriums serving as stages for social display. As a slave, you're invisible here, a shadow moving among the opulence. Your labor keeps this stage pristine, yet you'll never bask in its glory. You scrub harder, the rag fraying under your grip. The stain fades, but another waits, a reminder that your work is never done. You wonder if the tiles notice your effort. Probably not. They're as indifferent as the gods. As you move to the next section of floor, you spot a curious detail: a tiny snail, no bigger than a grape seed, inching across a tile. Its shell spirals like a miniature galaxy, and you pause, just for a heartbeat, to watch its slow journey. Snails are common here, slipping into the villa from the gardens. But this one feels like a secret. You nudge it gently onto your rag and carry it to a corner, away from trampling feet. Later you'll set it free, but for now, it's your quiet rebellion against the day's grind. You imagine telling Gaius about it, picturing his gap-toothed grin. A snail hero, eh? He'd say. The overseer calls your name, or rather, the name they gave you, a Latin word that feels like a borrowed cloak. You stand, brushing dust from your knees, and follow him to a side room where linens need folding. The room is dim, lit by a single oil lamp that flickers like a tired eye. You stack the linens, their weave rough but clean, and inhale the faint scent of lavender tucked into the folds. It's a luxury you'll never enjoy, this softness reserved for the master's family. You think of your own mat, thin and prickly, and laugh softly. If lavender could fix exhaustion, you'd be a senator by now. Folding linens gives you a moment to think, your hands moving on instinct. You recall Gaius's whisper about the master's guests. Banquets mean long hours, but also scraps of food if you're lucky. Your stomach twists, reminding you of the bread you haven't eaten. The Romans, ever practical, feed their slaves just enough to keep them working. Cato's writings on estate management suggest a diet of bread, olives, and watered wine, hardly a feast, but it keeps you alive. You wonder what the guests will eat tonight. Roasted peacock? Honeyed dormice? The thought is as distant as the moon. The linen's pile grows, each fold precise under the overseer's gaze. You notice a tear in one cloth, small but noticeable. You hesitate, knowing it could mean trouble. Hiding it might work, but if it's found later, the blame will fall on you. You set it aside, hoping to mend it tonight. The overseer doesn't notice, distracted by a slave who's spilled lamp oil. You wince as he barks, his whip uncoiling. No strike comes, but the threat hangs heavy. You keep folding, your heart a quiet drum. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves formed bonds despite their shared suffering or if fear kept them apart. Did you trust the woman humming nearby, or was every glance a calculation? For now, you work in silence, the atrium's beauty a cruel backdrop to your labor. You think of the snail again, safe in its corner. Maybe it's the only one winning today. You smile, imagining it racing a chariot in some tiny snail coliseum. The image carries you through another fold, another moment, as the morning hums on. You finish the linens and return to the atrium. Rag in hand? The overseer points to a new task, sweeping the courtyard. You nod, stepping into the sunlight, the tiles warm now under your feet. The villa pulses with life, slaves, animals. The distant clink of the kitchen. You grip the broom, its handle worn smooth, and begin to sweep. Dust rises, catching the light, and you lose yourself in the motion. The day is long, but you move with it, one step at a time. Part 3. The courtyard dust settles as you set the broom aside, your hands tingling from its rough handle. The sun climbs higher, its heat pressing against your skin like a heavy hand. You're called to the kitchen now, the overseer's grunt guiding you through the villa's maze of corridors. The air shifts as you approach, growing thick with the sense of charred wood, crushed herbs, and something sweet, perhaps honey simmering in a pot. You step into the kitchen, a cavern of heat and noise, where the day's rhythm quickens. It's 100 BC, and you, a slave in this Roman villa, are swept into the heart of its sustenance. Let's linger here, in the flicker of flames and the clatter of pots, and let the world soften around us. The kitchen is a chaos of purpose. Slaves dart between tasks, chopping, stirring, kneading, while a massive hearth roars, its flames licking at blackened pots. You're handed a basket of onions, their papery skins crackling under your fingers, and told to prepare them for a stew. You sit on a low stool, the wood creaking beneath you, and begin peeling. The onions sting your eyes, tears blurring the room into a haze. You blink them away, focusing on the knife's rhythm, its blade nicked from years of use. Nearby, a slave named Livia fans the hearth, her face flushed from the heat. She catches your eye and rolls hers, a silent jest at the chaos. You smile, imagining the onions plotting revenge in some vegetable underworld. Your task is simple but endless. The master's household eats well, and today's meal is for the family and their expected guests. You chop the onions, their sharp scent mixing with the tang of vinegar and the earthy musk of lentils boiling nearby. The kitchen is a microcosm of Roman culinary life, where slaves like you transform raw ingredients into feasts. Historical records, like Apicius's later recipes, hint at the complexity of Roman cooking, sauces of fish and wine, meat spiced with imported pepper. You won't taste these dishes, but you know they're making by heart. Your fingers move faster, the pile of onions shrinking as the stew pot waits. As you work, you notice a peculiar detail: a small clay jar tucked in a corner, its lid sealed with wax. It's garum, the infamous fish sauce Romans adore. You wrinkle your nose, remembering Gaius's quip about Neptune's armpit. The jar's presence is a reminder of the villa's wealth. Garum is costly, fermented from fish guts in distant ports. You've seen slaves stir those vats once, their stench a punishment in itself. Yet the masters drizzle it over everything, as if it's liquid gold. You chuckle softly, picturing a senator bathing in garum to impress his rivals. The image is absurd, but it lightens your hands. The kitchen's heat is relentless, sweat beading on your brow. You wipe it with your sleeve, careful not to touch your eyes with onion-stained fingers. Livia calls for more wood, and you pause to haul a bundle from a stack by the door. The wood is dry, splintering against your palms, and you stack it near the hearth. The flames flare, casting shadows that dance across the walls like restless spirits. You return to your onions, the knife slipping through their flesh with a satisfying crunch. The stew pot bubbles, its steam curling upward, and you imagine it whispering secrets of the villa's feasts. Roman kitchens were the domain of slaves, often women, who worked under intense pressure to satisfy elite tastes. Archaeological finds like those at Pompeii reveal kitchens equipped with mills, ovens, and storage jars, all maintained by unseen hands like yours. You're part of this machine, your labor fueling the household status. Yet there's a strange intimacy here. In the shared sweat and muttered curses of the kitchen crew. You glance at Livia, who's now kneading dough with fierce precision. She's been here longer than you, her hands scarred from years of burns. You wonder what she dreams of, but you don't ask. Questions are a luxury. The overseer appears at the door, his shadow cutting through the steam. He inspects the pots, barking at a slave who's let a sauce thicken too long. You keep your head down, chopping steadily. The onions are done, and you slide them into the stew. Their sizzle a small triumph. The cook, a burly man with a limp, nods at you, a rare gesture. You're sent to grind herbs next, your hands now crushing dried oregano in a mortar. The scent is sharp, almost medicinal, and you breathe it in, a fleeting escape from the kitchen's heat. You think of the snail from the atrium, wondering if it's found the garden yet. Maybe it's munching on these very herbs. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves found camaraderie in shared tasks or if competition for favor poisoned their bonds. Did you trust Livia's glance? Or was it a mask? For now, you grind the herbs, the mortar's weight grounding you. The kitchen hums, a symphony of clinks and hisses. You notice a clay cup of watered wine left on a table, untouched. You're tempted, but you resist. Stealing means lashes. Instead, you imagine sipping wine under a cool moon, free as the wind. It's a dream, soft and fleeting. But it carries you through another pinch of oregano. The cook calls for the herbs, and you deliver them, your hands dusted with green. He stirs them into the stew, the aroma swelling. You're sent to fetch more water, a familiar task. You step outside, the courtyard air a brief relief from the kitchen's furnace. The sun is nearing its peak, the villa alive with movement. You have to bucket, its weight a reminder of dawn's labor. As you head to the well, you hear Livia's hum again, faint through the open door. It's a thread of calm in the chaos, and you hold it close, letting it guide your steps. Part 4. The bucket swings heavy in your hand as you leave the kitchen's heat behind, stepping into the courtyard's glare. The sun is a fierce eye now, high and unblinking, scorching the earth of this Roman villa in 100 BC. You're sent to the fields next, the overseer's curt nod directing you to the vineyard that stretches beyond the villa's walls. The air hums with cicadas, their song a relentless pulse, and the scent of dust and sun-warmed grapes wraps around you. Your feet, bare and calloused, press into the dry soil as you join a line of slaves trudging toward the vines. Let's walk these rows together, slow and steady, and let the day's weight soften in the breeze. You're handed a curved knife, its blade dulled but sharp enough for pruning. The vineyard is a sea of green, its vines heavy with clusters of grapes that glint like amethysts in the light. Your task is to trim dead leaves and check for rot, a job that demands care. Damaged vines mean fewer bottles for the master's table. You kneel beside a row, the earth warm against your knees, and begin cutting. The leaves are brittle, crumbling under your touch, and the grape's sweet tang teases your nose. You're hungry, the kitchen stew a distant memory. But you don't dare taste the fruit. One stolen grape could earn you a lash, and you've seen the overseer's whip unfurl for less. The vineyard is quiet, save for the rustle of leaves and the occasional murmur of slaves working nearby. You spot Gaius a few rows over, his wiry frame bent as he ties vines to wooden stakes. He catches your eye and mimics fainting from the heat, his tongue lolling comically. You stifle a laugh, imagining him sprawled dramatically, demanding a fan like some pampered senator. The jest is fleeting, but it eases the ache in your back. You turn back to the vines, your knife slicing through a withered stem. The rhythm is meditative, almost soothing, if not for the sun's relentless stare. Roman vineyards were the backbone of elite wealth, as texts like Columella's agricultural manuals describe. Slaves like you tended these fields, producing wine that fueled Rome's feasts and trade. The labor was grueling, the hours long, yet the vines didn't care about your status. They grew for you as they did for the master. You pause to wipe sweat from your brow, your tunic clinging to your skin. The air shimmers with heat, and you squint at the horizon, where hills roll soft and green. For a moment, you imagine running toward them, but the thought fades. The fields are as much a cage as the villa's walls. As you work, you notice a curious sight, a small bird's nest tucked into a vine. Its twigs woven with bits of straw and a single blue thread, likely stolen from the villa's laundry. 3 tiny eggs rest inside, pale as moonlight. You glance around, ensuring the overseer isn't near, and adjust the leaves to shield the nest from the sun. It's a small act, pointless in the grand scheme, but it feels like a gift to something free. You think of the snail from the atrium, wondering if it's found its garden. Maybe it's cheering for these eggs, a tiny spectator in a world of giants. The overseer's shadow falls over you, his voice barking for faster work. You nod, your hands moving quicker though your eyes linger on the nest. He moves on, his whip coiled but ever present. You think of the garum jar in the kitchen and smile faintly. Imagine pouring it over his sandals as revenge. The thought is childish, but it keeps you cutting, keeps you moving. The grapes gleam, each one a promise of wine you'll never taste. You wonder what it's like, that rich red sip the masters savor. Probably overrated, like most things they hoard. Your row is nearly done. The pile of trimmed leaves growing at your feet. A slave nearby, a boy no older than 15, struggles with his knife, his hands shaking from exhaustion. You lean over, showing him how to angle the blade without cutting the vine. He mumbles thanks, his voice barely a whisper. You don't know his name, but you recognize the fear in his eyes. You've worn it too. The moment passes, and you return to your work, the sun climbing higher. The vineyard stretches on, endless as the day itself. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves found meaning in their labor or if it was merely survival's grind. Did you see beauty in the vines, or only the whip's shadow? For now you prune, your hands steady despite the heat. The nest eggs stay safe, a secret you carry as you move to the next vine. You think of Livia's hum in the kitchen, its faint melody a thread through the morning. Maybe you'll hum it later, when the overseer's gone. For now you work, the grapes glowing under your touch. The midday bell rings, a distant clang from the villa. It's not for you, slaves eat when the work allows, if at all. You glance at Gaius, who's wiping his face with his sleeve, leaving a streak of dirt like war paint. You grin, picturing him as a gladiator, brandishing a pruning knife instead of a sword. The image fades as the overseer calls you to gather the trimmed leaves for compost. You bundle them, their dry edges pricking your arms, and carry them to a cart. The vineyard hums with life, birds, insects, the soft creak of vines in the breeze. You breathe it in, letting it anchor you. The cart is heavy, but you push it toward the compost heap, your muscles straining. The sun is a weight, the air thick with dust. You think of the nest again, its eggs fragile but enduring. Maybe they'll hatch soon, tiny wings against the sky. It's a small hope, but it's yours. The overseer shouts for you to hurry, and you do, the vineyard blurring around you. The day is long, but you move with it, one vine at a time. Part 5. The vineyard's heat clings to you as you push the cart of leaves, its wheels creaking under the weight. The sun is a merciless overseer now, burning the back of your neck as you trudge toward the compost heap. You're a slave in this Roman villa, 100 BC, and the day's labor weaves through you like a thread through cloth. The overseer's voice fades behind you, replaced by the hum of cicadas and the rustle of distant olive trees. You're allowed a brief pause now, a rare sliver of time before the next task. You find a shaded corner near the vineyard's edge, where a low stone wall offers a moment's rest. Let's sit here, in the dappled light, and let the world hush for a breath. You lean against the wall. Its stones cool despite the midday blaze. Your tunic is damp with sweat, and you brush dirt from your hands, noticing the green stains from the vines. A clay jug of water sits nearby, like the murmur of a river. You spot Gaius sprawled under a tree, fanning himself with a broad leaf. He looks ridiculous, like a philosopher posing for a statue, and you smirk. If only he had a scroll instead of that leaf, he'd fool a senator. You're joined by a woman named Clodia, her face lined from years under the sun. She sits beside you, unwrapping a scrap of cloth to reveal a crust of bread. She breaks it, offering you half. You hesitate. Sharing is a risk when hunger is a constant shadow, but you accept, the bread dry but precious. Eat slow, she whispers, her voice rough as the wall you lean against. Makes it last. You nod, chewing carefully, the faint saltiness a small comfort. The act feels like a pact, a quiet defiance against the villa's rules. You think of the bird's nest in the vines, its eggs safe for now, and wonder if Clodia would smile at the story. Maybe later, when the overseer's gone. This moment, fleeting as it is a glimpse into the fragile bonds of Roman slaves. Historical records, like those from the jurist Gaius, note that slaves often formed communities within their oppression, sharing food or whispered hopes. But trust was a gamble. Betrayal could mean punishment, or worse. You glance at Clodia, her eyes scanning the field for the overseer's shadow. She's older, maybe 30, her hands scarred from years of weaving or grinding grain. You don't ask her story. Instead, you talk of small things, rumors of a festival in Rome, the master's new horse, the dream of a cooler day. It's safer this way, words that don't cut too deep. As you speak, Clodia mentions a name. Spartacus. It's a whisper, barely audible, but it lands like a stone in still water. They say he was one of us, she says, her gaze distant. Led 1,000 slaves, maybe more. You know the story. Spartacus's rebellion, decades ago, shook Rome to its core. The histories, pieced together from Plutarch and Appian, tell of a gladiator-turned-rebel who defied the Republic until his defeat in 71 BC. His name lingers among slaves, a spark of hope and fear. You nod, unsure if you believe the tales. Could you run? Like he did? The thought is a flicker, doused by the memory of the runaway Gaius mentioned, caught and branded. You notice a peculiar detail in Clodia's cloth, a faint embroidery. A tiny spiral stitched in blue thread. It's clumsy, hidden in the folds, but it's hers, a mark of something beyond the villa's grasp. You don't comment. But it reminds you of the clay charm by the well, the foot-shaped offering from dawn. These small acts, tucked into corners, are the language of survival. You think of telling Clodia about the snail you saved, imagining her dry laugh. A snail's got more freedom than us, she'd probably say. The thought makes you smile, soft as the shade you sit in. The bread is gone, its crumbs brushed from your fingers. You take another sip of water, the jug lighter now. Clodia leans back, closing her eyes, and for a moment you do the same. The breeze carries the scent of grapes and distant smoke, perhaps from the kitchen's hearth. You imagine slipping into that breeze, weightless, floating over the hills. It's a dream, not a plan. But it's enough to loosen the knot in your chest. You think of Livia's hum, its melody a faint echo in your mind. Maybe you'll hum it tonight, when the stars are out. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves dared to hope for freedom, or if despair was their truest companion. Did Clodia's whisper of Spartacus kindle courage? Or was it just a story to pass the time? For now you rest, the wall solid against your back. The vineyard stretches beyond, its vines heavy with promise. You think of the eggs in the nest. Fragile but enduring. Maybe they'll hatch soon, tiny lives against the vastness of Rome. It's a small thought, but it anchors you. Gaius ambles over, his leaf fan discarded. Rest's over, he mutters, jerking his head toward the overseer approaching. You stand, brushing dirt from your tunic, and Clodia tucks her cloth away. The moment breaks, but its warmth lingers, like embers under ash. You return to the vines, your knife in hand, the grapes gleaming under the sun. Gaius mutters about the overseer's bad breath, and you chuckle, picturing him gargling garum to fix it. The jest carries you forward, into the field's rhythm, as the day presses on. The overseer barks for you to move faster, his whip a coiled threat. You nod, your hands steady on the vines. The shade is gone, the sun await, but you work, one leaf at a time. Clodia's spiral stitches flash in your mind, a secret you'll keep. The vineyard hums, and you move with it, the world a blur of green and gold. Part 6. The vineyard's rhythm fades as you're summoned back to the villa, the overseer's sharp call cutting through the cicada's hum. You leave the vines behind, your hands still sticky with grape sap, and hurry across the courtyard, where the sun's heat shimmers off the stones. The air carries the faint clink of glass and laughter from the villa's heart. You've been called to serve at a midday banquet, a rare glimpse into the world of the masters. It's 100 BC and you, a slave in this Roman villa, step into the opulence of their lives, your presence as fleeting as a shadow. Let's move through this banquet, soft as a whisper, and let the clamor fade into calm. You enter the triclinium, the dining room, where the air is thick with the scents of roasted meat, spiced wine, and crushed rose petals scattered on the floor. The room is a jewel box of wealth. Its walls painted with frescoes of gods and gardens, their colors vivid even in the filtered light. 3 low couches, draped in crimson fabric, form a U-shape around a table laden with silver platters. The master reclines with his guests. 2 men in togas, their voices loud with wine and debate. You stand near the wall. A clay jug of watered wine in your hands, your eyes lowered. The overseer hovers at the door, his gaze a silent whip. Your task is to pour wine, a job that demands precision. You step forward when a guest's cup empties, your movements smooth to avoid notice. The wine, dark as plums, glugs softly into the cup, its scent sharp and heady. You catch fragments of their talk: taxes, a new temple, a chariot race gone wrong. They don't see you, their eyes sliding past as if you're part of the frescoes. You think of the snail from the atrium, inching unnoticed, and smile faintly. Maybe you're the snail now, carrying your burden through a world that ignores you. The banquet is a display of Roman excess, a ritual of status rooted in the Republic's social order. Historical accounts, like those of Livy, describe how elite Romans used feasts to cement alliances. Their tables groaning with exotic dishes, peacock, oysters, even dormice glazed in honey. You glance at the spread: figs stuffed with nuts, a whole roasted boar, and a bowl of that garum sauce, its fishy tang cutting through the sweeter aromas. You imagine Gaius's voice in your head, muttering about Neptune's armpit, and bite back a laugh. If only you could drizzle garum on the master's toga, just a drop for chaos. As you pour, you notice a peculiar detail: a guest's ring, a chunky gold band carved with a tiny boar's head. It glints as he gestures, his voice booming about a land deal. The ring is a status symbol, but to you, it's a reminder of the forge where slaves like you might have shaped it. Their hands burned by molten metal. You think of Clodia's embroidered cloth, its spiral hidden in her pocket, and wonder if the ring's maker left a mark too, a scratch, a dent. Something to say. I was here. You'll never know, but the thought lingers as you step back to the wall. The master calls for more wine, his voice slurred but commanding. You move quickly. The jug heavy in your hands. A drop splashes onto the table, and your heart skips, but no one notices. You retreat, blending into the room's edges. A slave girl, younger than you, circles with a tray of bread, her face taut with focus. You catch her eye and nod slightly, a shared understanding. The triclinium is a stage, and you're both actors in a play you didn't choose. You think of Livia's hum, its melody a distant comfort, and wish you could hum it now, just to steady your hands. Roman banquets were theaters of power, but for slaves, they were minefields. A spilled cup or a wrong step could mean punishment, as surviving household records suggest. You've heard of slaves flogged for less than a splash of wine. Yet there's a strange intimacy in this work. Watching the masters unmasked by drink, their laughter loud and careless. You notice the master's wife, seated at the table's edge, her eyes sharp despite her smile. She's the one to watch. Gaius once warned, she sees everything. You keep your movements small, your presence smaller. Scholars still debate whether slaves like you felt resentment or resignation in these moments. Serving those who owned you. Did you envy the master's ease, or was their world too distant to care? For now you pour, the wine's rhythm grounding you. You think of the bird's nest in the vineyard, its eggs safe under leaves. Maybe they're your talisman, a secret to carry through this gilded cage. You imagine telling Clodia about the boar ring, picturing her dry chuckle. Fancy pig for a fancy fool, she'd say. A guest spills his wine, the red pooling on the table like blood. He laughs, waving for you to clean it. You fetch a cloth, wiping quickly, the stain spreading before it fades. The overseer glares, but you're spared his wrath. The guest's jest about clumsy slaves draws laughter, not punishment. You retreat, the cloth damp in your hands. You think of the clay charm by the well, its foot shape a plea for escape. Maybe you'll touch it later for luck. For now you stand, jug ready, as the banquet drones on. The meal winds down. The guest's voice is softening. You're dismissed to fetch more bread, a chance to slip from the triclinium's weight. You step into the corridor, the air cooler, the scent of roses fading. The kitchen waits, its chaos a familiar hum. You think of Gaius, probably back in the fields, fanning himself with that leaf. You grin, imagining him sneaking a grape just to spite the sun. The day is long, but you move with it, one step at a time. Part 7. The triclinium's clamor fades as you leave its heavy air. The clay jug of wine replaced by a basket of warm bread you're tasked to deliver. You slip through the villa's corridors, the cool stone underfoot a brief relief from the banquet's tension. The sun has tipped past its peak now, casting long shadows across the courtyard as you're sent to the workshop next, a squat building tucked behind the villa's gardens. The scent of clay and wood smoke greets you, mingling with the faint sweetness of blooming jasmine nearby. It's 100 BC, and you, a slave in this Roman villa, step into the quiet hum of craftwork. Let's linger here, in the rhythm of hands and earth, and let the day's rush soften into stillness. You're assigned to shape clay pots, a task that feels like sculpting time itself. The workshop is dim, lit by slanting sunlight through narrow windows, and the air is thick with the mineral tang of wet clay. You sit at a wooden bench, a lump of gray earth before you. Its surface cool and yielding. Your fingers press into it, coaxing it into a curve, the clay slick under your palms. A potter's wheel spins nearby, worked by an older slave named Marcus. His hands steady despite the gray in his beard. He hums a tune, low and unfamiliar, and you wonder if it's from a home he'll never see again. You don't ask, silence is safer. But the hum is a thread of comfort. Your job is to form simple storage jars, the kind used for oil or grain. You knead the clay, working out air bubbles. Your hands moving with a rhythm learned through repetition. The workshop is a haven of focus, it sounds soft, the slap of clay, the creak of the wheel. The occasional clink of finished pots stacked in a corner. You shape the jar's base, widening it with careful pressure, your fingers leaving faint ridges in the clay. It's not art. Not like the master's painted vases, but there's a quiet pride in its utility. You think of the onions you chopped in the kitchen, now simmering in a stew, and smile faintly. Maybe this jar will hold something as vital. Roman workshops were the backbone of household production, as archaeological finds like those at Herculaneum reveal. Slaves like you crafted everything from pottery to textiles, their labor fueling the villa's self-sufficiency. Your pots will never bear your name, but they'll outlast you. Buried in some storeroom or shattered in a future no one can predict. You smooth the jar's rim, your hands steady despite the ache in your wrists. The clay smells of rain and earth. A reminder of the fields you left behind. You imagine Gaius seeing your work and joking. A pot fit for garum, Neptune's finest! The thought makes you chuckle, soft as the clay under your fingers. As you work, you notice a peculiar detail. A small mark on Marcus's bench, a crude carving of a fish scratched into the wood. It's barely visible, hidden under a smear of clay. But it feels deliberate, a secret, like Clodia's embroidered spiral or the charm by the well. You wonder if it's a Christian symbol, though that faith is still a whisper in Rome's underbelly. Or simply a nod to the sea Marcus might have crossed. You don't ask, but you trace it with your eyes, committing it to memory. It's a fleeting rebellion, this noticing, but it's yours. You think of the bird's nest in the vineyard, its eggs still safe, and hope Marcus's fish swims free in his dreams. The workshop's quiet is broken by the overseer's arrival. His sandals scuffing the dirt floor. He inspects your jar, grunting approval before moving to Marcus's wheel. You exhale, relieved, and start another pot, your hands sinking into fresh clay. The overseer lingers, his presence a weight, but he leaves without a word. You glance at Marcus, who is still humming, unfazed. His calm is a lesson, one you tuck away like the fish carving. You think of Livia's hum in the kitchen, its melody twining with Marcus's, and wonder if you'll hum tonight, under the stars. The afternoon stretches, each pot a small victory. Your hands grow heavy. The clay's chill seeping into your bones. You notice a crack in one jar, too fine to fix, and set it aside for breaking. Flawed work invites trouble. The Romans valued perfection in their goods, if not their people, and you've seen slaves punished for less. You think of the banquet's boar ring, its gold hiding the sweat of its maker, and smirk. Imagine the master's face if you served his wine in a cracked pot. Oh, the scandal! The jest carries you through another curve, another rim. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves found solace in skilled work, or if every task was a chain. Did this pot, shaped by your hands, hold a piece of you, or was it just another burden? For now, you mold the clay, its weight grounding you. You think of the snail from the atrium, inching toward freedom, and hope it's found its garden. Maybe it's cheering for your pots. A tiny critic in a world of giants. The thought is absurd, but it steadies your fingers as you smooth the clay. Marcus pauses his wheel, stretching his back with a groan. He nods at your stack of jars, a rare gesture. Good enough, he says, his voice like gravel. You nod back, the praise a small warmth. The workshop hums, its rhythm a pulse you follow. You start another pot, the clay soft and waiting. The sun slants lower, painting the walls gold, and you work, one turn at a time. The day is long, but you move with it. The fish carving a secret you carry as the light fades. Part 8. The workshop's clay-scented air lingers on your hands as you set the last pot to dry, its surface smooth under your fingertips. The sun dips lower, casting long shadows across the villa's courtyard as you're called back to the main house. Your muscles ache, but the day's work doesn't pause, and neither do you. You cross the courtyard, the stones still warm from the afternoon's heat, and catch the distant scent of olive oil and wood smoke. It's 100 BC, and you, a slave in this Roman villa, move through the fading light, your steps quiet but steady. Let's walk these corridors, soft as a breeze, and let the world's edges blur into calm. You're sent to the storeroom to fetch supplies, sacks of grain for tomorrow's bread, but the villa is alive with whispers tonight. As you pass the kitchen, you overhear two slaves. Their voices low and urgent, speaking of Spartacus. The name, first whispered by Clodia in the vineyard, now hums through the air like a forbidden song. You pause, hidden in the corridor's shadows, your hands gripping the rough sack you've been given. The slave's words are fragmented: rebellion, gladiators, a march against Rome, but they carry a weight that makes your pulse quicken. You listen, unseen, as the villa's routine hums around you. The story of Spartacus is no myth, though it's grown jagged with retelling. Historical accounts, like those of Appian and Plutarch, describe his uprising in 73 to 71 BC, a rebellion of slaves and gladiators that shook the Roman Republic. He led thousands, defying armies until his defeat, his body lost to history's chaos. Among slaves, his name is both a beacon and a warning, a dream of freedom, a reminder of its cost. You think of the runaway Gaius mentioned, caught by the Tiber, and wonder if Spartacus's ghost still stirs such dreams. The slaves' voices fade as the overseer's footsteps approach, and you hurry to the storeroom, the sack heavy in your arms. The storeroom is cool and dim, its walls lined with clay amphorae and woven baskets. You stack the grain sacks, their weight pulling at your shoulders, and inhale the dusty scent of barley and wheat. The work is mindless, but your mind hums with what you heard. Rebellion is a word too big for this villa, yet it lingers, sharp as the knife you used in the vineyard. You think of Clodia's whisper, her eyes distant, and wonder if she's heard these rumors too. You imagine Gaius's gap-toothed grin, joking, "Spartacus hate this grain, too gritty for a rebel." The thought makes you smile, easing the knot in your chest. As you work, you notice a peculiar detail: a small clay tablet, half buried under a sack, etched with a crude tally of goods. It's not unusual. Slaves often keep records for the master, but this one has a tiny drawing in the corner, a spear crossed with a chain. It's subtle, easily missed, but it feels like a nod to Spartacus, a secret scratched in the dark. You don't touch it, afraid to disturb its quiet defiance. It reminds you of Marcus's fish carving in the workshop, or the foot-shaped charm by the well, marks of lives pressed into the villa's margins. You stack another sack, the tablet hidden again. But its image stays with you. The storeroom's silence is a contrast to the villa's pulse, and you let it settle over you. You think of the bird's nest in the vineyard, its eggs safe under leaves. And hope they're still there, untouched by the day's heat. The thought is a small anchor, grounding you as you haul another sack. You recall Livia's hum from the kitchen, its melody a thread through the hours, and find yourself humming it now, soft enough to stay unheard. It's a rebellion of sorts, this hum, a claim to something the overseer can't touch. Roman slaves lived under constant surveillance, as legal texts like the Digest of Justinian reveal, yet whispers of resistance persisted. Spartacus's rebellion, though crushed, left echoes in the stories slaves told, passed in moments like this. You wonder if the tablet's maker believed in freedom, or simply needed to dream. The overseer's voice snaps you back, calling from the corridor. You hurry, dragging the last sack into place, your hands dusted with grain. He inspects your work, his eyes narrow, but he nods, moving on. You exhale, the spear and chain image flickering in your mind. Scholars still debate whether Spartacus's rebellion inspired lasting hope among slaves or merely deepened their fear of reprisal. Did his name light a fire in you, or was it a ghost best left buried? For now you work, the storeroom's cool air a brief reprieve. You think of the snail from the atrium, inching toward its garden, and hope it's found peace. Maybe it's cheering for the tablet's maker, a tiny witness to their courage. You smile, picturing it waving a leaf like Gaius with his fan. The storeroom is done, and you're sent to sweep the corridor outside. You grab a broom, its handle worn smooth, and begin, the bristles whispering against the stone. The villa is quieter now, the banquet's laughter faded. But the whispers of Spartacus linger. You think of Clodia's embroidered spiral, hidden in her cloth, and wonder if she'd draw a spear too. The corridor stretches, its shadows long, and you sweep, one stroke at a time. The day is waning, but you move with it, the hum in your throat a secret you carry. Part 9. The broom's steady rhythm carries you through the corridor, its bristles whispering against the stone as the villa settles into the late afternoon. The air cools slightly, tinged with the scent of fading jasmine and the distant smoke of the kitchen's hearth. You're tasked with cleaning the villa's floors now, a job that feels like polishing the sky, endless, yet necessary. The shadows lengthen, painting the walls with soft grays, and the day's weight presses into your bones. It's 100 BC, and you, a slave in this Roman villa, move through the dusk's quiet hum. Let's drift across these tiles, gentle as a fading star, and let the world's edges blur into peace. You carry a rag and a bucket of vinegar water, its sharp tang stinging your nose as you kneel in the peristyle, the open garden courtyard ringed by columns. The floor here is a mosaic of black and white tiles, their geometric patterns swirling like a frozen dance. You scrub at smudges left by sandals and spilled wine, your hands moving in slow circles. The tiles are cool, a small mercy after the vineyard's heat, and the garden's greenery breathes a faint sweetness into the air. A fountain burbles nearby, its water catching the last of the sun's gold. You pause, just for a breath, letting the sound wash over you like a lullaby. The peristyle is the villa's quiet heart, a place where the masters stroll and philosophize. You've seen them here, draped in togas, debating laws or laughing over wine. Now it's empty, save for you and another slave, a boy sweeping leaves from the garden's edge. He's silent, his eyes fixed on his work, but you notice his hands tremble, new, perhaps, or just afraid. You don't speak. Words are heavy in the overseer's shadow. Instead, you focus on the tiles, their patterns a map you'll never follow. You think of Gaius, probably back in the fields, and grin faintly, imagining him tripping over a vine and blaming the gods. Cleaning the villa is a task of invisibility, one that binds you to its rhythm. Roman households, as described in texts like Vitruvius's architectural works, were designed for display, their floors and gardens a canvas of wealth. Your labor keeps this canvas pristine, erasing the day's chaos so the masters can tread without care. You dip your rag, wringing it until the water drips like rain, and scrub a stubborn stain. It fades, but another waits. A reminder that your work is a cycle, not a destination. You think of the clay pots you shaped, their curves drying in the workshop, and wonder if they'll hold grain or garum. Probably garum, Neptune's revenge, as Gaius would say. As you work, you notice a peculiar detail, a single petal, vibrant red, caught between two tiles. It's from a rose, likely scattered during the banquet, its edges curling as it dries. You pluck it gently, tucking it into your tunic's fold. It's a small theft, meaningless, but it feels like claiming a piece of the villa's beauty. You think of Clodia's embroidered spiral, the fish carving in the workshop, the spear and chain tablet in the storeroom, secrets woven into the day's grind. The petal is yours, a fleeting rebellion against the tile's endless demand. You imagine showing it to Livia, picturing her dry laugh. A rose for a slave? The poets would weep. The overseer passes, his sandals clipping the stone. He doesn't stop, but his glance is a warning, and you scrub faster, the rag fraying under your grip. The boy sweeping leaves flinches at the sound, dropping his broom. You catch his eye and nod, a silent steadying. He picks it up, his movements jerky. And you return to the tiles, the vinegars bite sharp in the air. You think of the bird's nest in the vineyard, its eggs hidden safe, and hope they're still there, untouched by the day's churn. The thought is a soft anchor, grounding you as you move to the next patch of floor. The peristyle's fountain keeps its steady song, and you let it weave through your thoughts. You hum Livia's melody, so faint it's barely a breath, a thread connecting you to the kitchen's heat, the workshop's clay, the vineyard's dust. The hum is defiance, small but yours, like the rose petal tucked against your skin. You think of Spartacus, his name whispered in the storeroom, and wonder if he ever cleaned floors like these before he ran. The idea is distant, a star too far to touch, but it lingers as you scrub, the tiles gleaming under your hands. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves found moments of peace in routine tasks, or if every act was stained by subjugation. Did this mosaic, polished by your hands, offer a flicker of pride? Or was it just another chain? For now you clean, the rag's rhythm a pulse you follow. You think of the snail from the atrium, inching toward its garden, and hope it's found freedom. Maybe it's cheering for your petal, a tiny witness to your quiet claim. You smile, picturing it waving a leaf like Gaius with his fan, a champion of small rebellions. The boy finishes sweeping, his pile of leaves neat but trembling. You nod again, and he scurries off, likely to another task. You're alone now, the peristyle's silence wrapping around you. The tiles shine, their patterns sharp in the fading light. You stand, your knees creaking, and empty the bucket, the water splashing into the garden's earth. The overseer will return soon, but for now you breathe, the rose petal a secret against your skin. The day is long, but you move with it, one tile at a time. Part 10. The peristyle's tiles gleam as you set the bucket aside. The rose petal still tucked in your tunic, a secret pressed against your skin. The evening air brushes your face, cooler now, carrying the scent of earth and distant wood smoke. You're called to the courtyard next, where the villa's pulse slows as dusk settles. Your task is to haul firewood. But the calm is shattered by a sudden shout. A fellow slave's mistake has drawn the overseer's wrath. You pause, your heart a quiet drum, as the scene unfolds. It's 100 BC and you, a slave in this Roman villa, stand witness to the cost of error. Let's move through this moment, soft as a fading ember, and let the world's sharpness blur. You stack logs near the kitchen's entrance, their bark rough under your hands, when the overseer's voice cuts through the courtyard like a blade. "Careless fool!" he bellows, his whip uncoiling as he looms over a young slave named Titus, who has spilled a tray of clay lamps. Oil slicks the stones, glinting in the twilight, and Titus cowers, his hands raised as if to ward off the inevitable. You freeze, the firewood heavy in your arms, your eyes darting to the other slaves nearby. They work on, heads down, but the air is thick with fear. You think of Gaius's jest about the overseer's breath and wish it could lighten this moment, but the whip's shadow is too long. The overseer strikes, the whips crack sharp as thunder. Titus cries out, a sound that twists your gut, and you grip the logs tighter, your knuckles pale. The punishment is swift, 2 lashes, enough to mark but not to maim. Roman law, as later codified in texts like the Digest of Justinian, allowed such discipline, viewing slaves as property to be corrected. Titus's crime was small, but the lesson is for all of you. Precision is survival. You stack another log, your movements mechanical, as Titus stumbles to his feet, blood seeping through his tunic. The overseer coils his whip, his face impassive, and moves on, leaving silence in his wake. You glance at Titus, now gathering the shattered lamps, his hands shaking. You want to help, but the overseer's eyes linger, and you know better than to draw attention. Instead, you carry your logs, the wood's weight a distraction from the ache in your chest. The courtyard is quieter now, the other slaves' movements careful, as if the stones might betray them too. You think of the bird's nest in the vineyard, its eggs fragile but safe, and hope it stays hidden. The thought is a small shield, protecting you from the courtyard's cruelty. As you stack, you notice a peculiar detail, a small pebble, smooth and round, nestled among the logs. It's out of place, polished by some river's touch, and you slip it into your tunic beside the rose petal. It's nothing, a child's treasure perhaps, but it feels like a talisman, like Clodia's spiral or the storeroom's spear and chain tablet. You imagine showing it to Livia, picturing her wry smile. "A rock for your rebellion?" she'd say. The thought makes you smirk, soft as the dusk, and you stack another log, the pebble a secret against your skin. The firewood is nearly done, the pile neat beside the kitchen door. You wipe sweat from your brow, the evening air a faint relief. The overseer's gone, but his presence lingers, a ghost in every shadow. You think of Spartacus, his name whispered in the storeroom, and wonder if Titus dreams of running. The thought is dangerous, a spark in dry grass, but it flickers as you work. You hum Livia's melody, barely audible, its notes a quiet defiance. The hum weaves through the courtyard silence, connecting you to the kitchen, the workshop, the vines, a thread of survival. Roman punishments were calculated, designed to maintain order without wasting labor. Archaeological evidence, like shackles found in Pompeii, shows the physical control slaves endured, while texts describe floggings as routine. Yet in this moment, you feel the weight of Titus's pain, a shared wound. You stack the last log, your hands steady despite the memory of the whip's crack. You think of the snail from the atrium, inching toward its garden, and hope it's found peace. Maybe it's cheering for Titus, a tiny witness to his endurance. You smile, picturing it waving a leaf like Gaius with his fan. A champion of small survivals. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves internalized their punishments as deserved or saw them as fuel for resistance. Did Titus's lashes bind you closer to him, or widen the gap of fear? For now you work, the courtyard stones cool underfoot. You glance at Titus, now sweeping the oil with a rag, his face set in a mask of endurance. You want to nod, to offer something, but you don't. The pebble in your tunic presses against you, a reminder of the river it came from, free and far. You hold that thought, letting it carry you through the task's end. The kitchen door creaks, and Livia appears, her face flushed from the hearth. She gestures for the firewood, her eyes meeting yours briefly. There's no time for words, but her glance is enough, a shared understanding, like the nod you gave the sweeping boy in the peristyle. You hand her a log, your fingers brushing hers, and return to the pile. The courtyard darkens, the stars beginning to prick the sky. You think of the rose petal, the pebble, the nest's eggs, small things that anchor you. The day is long, but you move with it, one step at a time. Part 11. The courtyard shadows deepen as you finish stacking the firewood, the pebble and rose petals still tucked safe in your tunic. The evening air is crisp now, carrying the faint scent of cooling earth and the villa's ever-present olive groves. You're sent to the children's quarters next. Not to work, but to deliver a bundle of clean linens from the morning's tasks. The villa is quieter, its pulse slowing as night creeps closer. You move through the corridors. The stone cool under your bare feet, and catch a glimpse of something rare, a moment of learning that sparks a flicker in your mind. It's 100 BC, and you, a slave in this Roman villa, step into a world just beyond your reach. Let's linger here, soft as a candle's glow, and let the day's weight fade. You enter the children's quarters, a small room off the atrium. Its walls painted with playful scenes of birds and vines. The linens are heavy in your arms, their lavender scent a faint echo of the luxury you'll never know. A slave tutor. An older man named Quintus sits with the master's 2 children, a boy of 10 and a girl of 7. He's teaching them to read, his voice steady as he guides them through a wax tablet inscribed with Latin verses. You pause at the door, unnoticed, and watch as the boy traces a stylus, his brow furrowed. The girl giggles, smudging her tablet, and Quintus corrects her gently, his patience a contrast to the overseer's bark. You set the linens on a wooden chest, your movements silent to avoid disturbing the lesson. The room is lit by oil lamps, their flames casting a warm glow over the tablets and the children's intent faces. You've seen Quintus before, always with a scroll or stylus, his eyes sharp despite the lines etched around them. He's a pedagogus, a slave valued for his learning, a rarity in a world that prizes your hands over your mind. You wonder what he knows: poetry, history, the stars' paths, and feel a pang of curiosity, sharp as the vinegar you scrubbed with earlier. You think of Gaius, who'd probably jest, "Reading? I'd rather read a bowl of stew." The thought makes you smile, soft and secret. Roman education, as described in texts like Quintilian's later works, was a privilege for the elite, but slaves like Quintus often bridged that gap, teaching children the skills of rhetoric and literacy. Your role is humbler, your hands made for labor, not letters, yet this glimpse of learning stirs something in you. You notice the girl's tablet. It's wax scratched with clumsy letters, and imagine holding a stylus, carving your own name. It's a fleeting dream, as distant as the hills beyond the vineyard, but it lingers as you smooth the linens, your fingers tracing their weave. As you work, you spot a peculiar detail, a small clay figurine on a shelf, shaped like a horse with a lopsided grin. It's clearly a child's creation. Its edge is rough, but it's been kept, perhaps by Quintus, as a token of affection. It reminds you of the pebble in your tunic, the rose petal, the storeroom's spear and chain tablet, small things that carry weight beyond their size. You think of showing the figurine to Clodia, picturing her dry chuckle. "A horse with more charm than the master," she'd say. The image steadies you as you stack the linens, their scent mingling with the room's wax and oil. Quintus glances at you, his eyes meeting yours for a heartbeat. There's no warmth, but no scorn either, just a flicker of recognition, as if he sees the curiosity you hide. He returns to the children, reciting a line from Homer, his voice low and rhythmic. You don't understand the Greek, but its cadence is a song, weaving through the room like Livia's hum. You hum it now, barely a breath, a thread connecting you to the kitchen, the workshop, the courtyard's pain. The hum is yours, a quiet claim to this moment, even as you stand at its edge. The children's lesson continues, the boy now reading aloud, his voice halting but proud. You finish with the linens and turn to leave, but Quintus's voice stops you. "Bring a lamp," he says, not looking up. You fetch one from a nearby table, its oil heavy with the scent of pressed olives, and set it beside him. He nods, the gesture small but enough. You step back, blending into the room's shadows. Your task complete. The lamp's flame dances, and you think of the bird's nest in the vineyard, its eggs safe under leaves. Maybe they're your talisman, guarding you through this glimpse of a world not yours. Scholars still debate whether educated slaves like Quintus felt pride in their role or bitterness at their bondage. Did he see teaching as a gift, or a chain forged from words? For now you linger, the linen's lavender fading as you step into the corridor. You think of the snail from the atrium, inching toward its garden, and hope it's found freedom. Maybe it's cheering for Quintus, a tiny witness to his quiet endurance. You smile, picturing it waving a leaf like Gaius with his fan. A champion of small dreams. The corridor is dark, the villa's hum softer now. You're sent to the kitchen next, but the lesson stays with you, its words a distant echo. You think of the clay horse, its lopsided grin, and wonder if the girl who made it dreams of riding free. The pebble and petal press against your skin, secrets you carry as you walk. The day is long, but you move with it. One step at a time, the hum in your throat a melody for the stars. Part 12. The corridor's shadows guide you from the children's quarters, the faint echo of Quintus's voice fading behind you. The villa is hushed now, its stones cooling as night wraps around the walls. You're sent to a small room near the slaves' quarters, tasked with mending torn garments by the flicker of a single oil lamp. The air carries the scent of wool and wax, mingling with the distant earthiness of the olive groves beyond. Your fingers, still dusted with the day's labor, ache as you thread a bone needle. It's 100 BC, and you, a slave in this Roman villa, settle into the quiet of nightfall's tasks. Let's sit here, in the lamp's soft glow, and let the world's weight dissolve into whispers. You spread a pile of tunics across a wooden bench, their fabric worn but sturdy, patched countless times by hands like yours. The lamp casts a warm circle, its flame swaying as you stitch a tear in a child's garment, likely the girl's from the lesson room. The needle pricks your finger, a tiny sting, and you pause, sucking the bead of blood. The room is silent, save for the faint creak of the villa settling and the occasional chirp of crickets outside. You're alone, a rare moment, and it feels like a breath held too long. You think of Gaius, probably snoring somewhere, and smirk, imagining him dreaming of garum vats chasing him through Rome. Your stitches are small and precise, a skill learned through necessity. The Romans, as practical as they were grand, valued mending. Texts like Columella's agricultural works mention slaves maintaining household goods to stretch resources. This tunic, with its faded blue dye, will return to the master's daughter, its flaws hidden by your hands. You work steadily, the needle's rhythm a quiet song, and let your mind wander. The day's moments flicker past, the vineyard's nest, the storeroom's tablet. The whips crack in the courtyard. Each is a thread, weaving you to this villa, this life, this needle's point. As you stitch, you notice a peculiar detail, a faint stain on the tunic, shaped like a crescent moon, too stubborn to wash out. It's barely visible, a ghost of some spilled wine or fruit, but it feels like a story, a child's laugh, a scolding, a moment you'll never know. You think of the clay horse in the lesson room, its lopsided grin, and wonder if this stain was born of the same careless joy. You don't rub at it, let it stay, a secret like your rose petal. Your pebble, Clodia's spiral. You imagine showing it to Livia, picturing her wry nod. A moon for a dreamer, she'd say. The thought steadies your hands as you tie off the thread. The lamp's oil burns low, its light wavering. You reach for another tunic, this one coarser, likely a slave's. Its tear is jagged, as if caught on a nail or thorn, and you mend it with the same care, though it'll never be noticed. The act is a kind of defiance, giving dignity to what the villa overlooks. You think of Livia's hum, its melody a lifeline through the day, and hum it now, soft as the cricket's song. The hum weaves through the room, connecting you to the kitchen's heat, the workshop's clay, the courtyard's pain. It's yours, a rebellion stitched into the night. Night work was common for slaves, as archaeological finds like lamps and looms in Pompeii suggest, extending labor into hours the masters slept. You're tired, your eyes heavy, but the overseer's shadow lingers in your mind, urging precision. You think of Titus, his back marked by the whip, and wonder if he's mending too, in body or spirit. The needle moves, its rhythm a pulse, and you let it carry you. The villa is a machine, and you're its gear, turning even as the stars rise. You think of the snail from the atrium, inching toward its garden, and hope it's found peace. Maybe it's cheering for your stitches, a tiny witness to your quiet craft. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves found meaning in these small tasks, or if they were merely chains of routine. Did this tunic, mended by your hands, hold a piece of you? Or was it just another hour's labor? For now you stitch, the lamp's glow grounding you. You think of the bird's nest, its eggs safe in the vineyard, and hope they're still there, untouched by the day's churn. The crescent stain glints in the light, a secret you'll carry like the spear and chain tablet or Quintus's patient voice. You smile, picturing the snail waving a leaf like Gaius with his fan, a champion of small victories. The pile of tunics shrinks, each stitch a step toward rest. You tie off the last thread, your fingers cramped but steady. The lamp sputters, its oil nearly gone, and you lean back, the bench creaking under you. The villa is silent, the world beyond a mystery. You think of Spartacus, his name a whisper in the storeroom, and wonder if he ever mended tunics before he ran. The thought is distant, a star too far to touch, but it lingers as you fold the garments. Their weight soft in your hands. The pebble and petal press against your skin, talismans of a day survived. You stand, stretching your back, and carry the tunics to a basket for morning delivery. The room feels smaller now, the lamp's glow fading. You think of Clodia's embroidered spiral, hidden in her cloth, and wonder if she's awake, dreaming of freedom. The crickets sing, and you hum Livia's melody one last time, letting it carry you into the night. The day is long, but you move with it, one stitch at a time, the stars waiting beyond the walls. Part 13. The mended tunics rest in their basket, the bone needle tucked safely away as you extinguish the sputtering lamp. The room is dark now, save for the faint moonlight slipping through a narrow window, painting the floor in silver streaks. You're called to the slaves' quarters. Not for rest but to join a rare moment of respite, a gathering where an older slave shares stories by candlelight. The air is heavy with the scent of straw and sweat, but there's a warmth here, fragile as the flame. It's 100 BC, and you, a slave in this Roman villa, sit among your own, listening to tales of distant lands. Let's linger in this circle, soft as a whispered dream, and let the night's weight dissolve. You settle on a straw mat, your back against the rough stone wall, the pebble and rose petal still tucked in your tunic. The quarters are cramped. A dozen slaves crowded around a single candle, its light flickering over tired faces. The storyteller is an old woman named Emilia, her hair a tangle of gray, her voice low and rhythmic, like waves lapping a forgotten shore. She speaks of her homeland, a place of wide rivers and endless forests, far beyond Rome's grasp. Her words are a tapestry, villages of wood, feasts under starlight, gods who live in trees. You listen, your knees drawn up, the day's labor a dull ache in your bones. Emilia's stories are a gift, rare in a life ruled by the overseer's whip. She describes a river so clear you could see fish darting like arrows, their scales glinting like the master's silver. You imagine swimming there, weightless, the water cool against your skin. The image is a balm, soothing the memory of Titus's lashes, the storeroom's whispers, the endless tiles you scrubbed. You think of Gaius, absent tonight, and grin faintly, picturing him interrupting with a jest. Fish? Better than garum, I bet! The thought steadies you, a spark in the candle's glow. Storytelling was a lifeline for Roman slaves, though rarely recorded in elite texts. Archaeological finds, like inscriptions in slave quarters, suggest oral traditions thrived in these hidden spaces, preserving identities the villa sought to erase. Emilia's tales, woven from memory, are defiance, a claim to a self beyond the master's reach. You glance at the others, their eyes fixed on her. Some soft with longing, others hard with doubt. Clodia sits nearby, her hands folded, the spiral in her cloth hidden but present in your mind. You wonder if she dreams of rivers too, or if Spartacus's name still burns in her thoughts. As Emilia speaks, you notice a peculiar detail, a small braid of grass tucked into her sleeve, its blades woven tight, like a charm. It's subtle, easily missed, but it feels like the spear and chain tablet, the clay horse, your own petal and pebble, a mark of something unbroken. You think of the bird's nest in the vineyard, its eggs safe under leaves, and hope they're still there, cradled by the night. The braid is Emilia's river, her forest, carried across years of servitude. You imagine showing it to Livia, picturing her quiet nod. Grass stronger than stone, she'd say. The thought weaves through Emilia's words, anchoring you to the mat. The candle burns low, its wax pooling on the floor. Emilia's voice slows, her story shifting to a festival where her people danced until dawn, their feet pounding the earth like drums. You feel the rhythm in your chest, a pulse that hums with Livia's melody, the one you've carried all day. You hum it now, so soft it blends with the crickets outside, a thread tying you to the kitchen, the workshop, the courtyard's pain. The hum is yours, a rebellion in the flicker of light, a claim to this moment among the weary. Slaves' gatherings were dangerous, as Roman laws forbade unsanctioned assemblies. Fearing rebellion. Yet these moments, as fleeting as Emilia's rivers, were where hope took root. You think of Quintus, teaching the master's children, his voice a different kind of story. Did he ever sit here, listening to Emilia? The question lingers as she describes a star her people called the Wanderer, said to guide lost souls home. You glance at the window, where the moon hangs heavy, and wonder if the Wanderer is watching. Maybe it's guiding the snail from the atrium, inching toward its garden. Scholars still debate whether such stories gave slaves strength, or merely softened their chains. Did Emilia's rivers lift you, or remind you of a freedom you'll never touch? For now you listen. The candles glow grounding you. You think of the rose petal, the pebble, the nest's eggs, small things that hold you fast. You smile, picturing the snail waving a leaf like Gaius with his fan. A tiny champion of Emilia's tales. The braid in her sleeve catches the light, a secret you'll carry like the crescent stain on the tunic you mended. Emilia's voice fades, her story ending with a promise of another tomorrow. The candle gutters, and the slaves disperse, their mats rustling as they seek sleep. You stay a moment, the grass braid vivid in your mind. Clodia brushes past, her eyes meeting yours, a silent understanding. You think of Spartacus, his name a whisper in the storeroom, and wonder if Emilia's rivers fueled his run. The quarter's empty, and you rise, the pebble and petal pressing against your skin. The day is long, but you move with it, one story at a time, the stars bright beyond the walls. Part 14. The slaves' quarters fade behind you as you step into the cool night, Emilia's stories of rivers and stars still rippling in your mind. The villa is silent now, its corridors dark save for the faint glow of moonlight pooling on the stones. You're not yet free to rest. The overseer has ordered you to check the storeroom, ensuring the grain sacks from earlier are secure. The air carries the scent of dew and distant olive groves, a reminder of the world beyond these walls. It's 100 BC and you, a slave in this Roman villa, carry the weight of the day as you move toward dreams of freedom. Let's walk this quiet path, soft as a whispered hope, and let the night's hush cradle us. You reach the storeroom, its door creaking as you push it open. The familiar scent of barley and dust greets you, and you step inside, your bare feet silent on the dirt floor. A single oil lamp, left burning by another slave, casts a trembling light over the clay amphory and woven baskets. You check the sacks, their weight reassuring under your hands, and find them undisturbed. The task is simple, but it gives you a moment alone, a rare space to think. You sit on a low stool, the pebble and rose petal pressing against your skin, and let your thoughts drift to manumission, the distant hope of freedom. Manumission was a real, if rare, possibility in Roman society. Historical records, like those in the legal texts of Gaius, describe how some slaves were freed by their masters, often through a formal ceremony called manumissio. A freed slave, or freedman, could become a citizen, though with limits, never fully equal to the freeborn. You've heard stories of it happening, a cook freed for her skill, a tutor like Quintus rewarded for years of teaching. You think of Emilius rivers, wondering if freedom would feel like swimming in their clear waters, weightless and unbound. The thought is a star, bright but far, and you hold it gently, afraid it might burn. You run your fingers over a sack, its weave rough against your calluses. The storeroom is a vault of the villa's wealth, yet you own nothing, not even the tunic you wear. You think of Clodia's embroidered spiral, Emilius' grass braid, the spear and chain tablet hidden here. These small acts of defiance are your wealth, gathered like coins in a beggar's cup. You imagine Gaius's voice teasing, "Freedom? I'd settle for a jug of wine." The jest makes you smile, soft as the lamp's glow, and you picture him sneaking a grape in the vineyard, his gap-toothed grin defying the overseer's whip. As you sit, you notice a peculiar detail, a faint scratch on the storeroom's wall, barely visible in the lamplight. It's a single word, crudely etched, asterisk Libertas star. Freedom. You freeze, your breath catching, as if the word might summon the overseer. It's a reckless act, this carving, a whisper louder than Spartacus's name. You think of the bird's nest in the vineyard, its eggs safe under leaves, and hope this word stays hidden too. You don't touch it, but its weight settles in you, like the pebble, the petal, the crescent stain on the tunic. You imagine showing it to Livia, picturing her quiet nod. "A word heavier than stone," she'd say. The lamp's flame wavers, its oil nearly spent. You stand, checking the sacks one last time, your hands moving on instinct. The hope of manumission is a fragile thing, easily crushed by a master's whim or a single mistake. You think of Titus, his back scarred from the whip, and wonder if he dreams of Libertas too. The storeroom's silence wraps around you, and you hum Livia's melody, its notes a thread through the night. The hum is defiance, a song for the snail from the atrium, inching toward its garden, and for the eggs in the nest, waiting to hatch. It's yours, a rebellion etched in breath. Roman manumission was often a tool of control, as scholars note, granted to reinforce loyalty or reward profit. Freedmen remained tied to their former masters, owing service or debts. Yet in this moment, Libertas is a dream, not a contract. You think of Quintus, his patient voice teaching the master's children, and wonder if he hopes for freedom or accepts his chains. The storeroom's walls seem closer now, the lamp's light fading. You step toward the door, the word Libertas a secret you carry, like Emilius Rivers or the clay horse's lopsided grin. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves clung to dreams of manumission or saw them as cruel illusions. Did Libertas light your path, or mock your chains? For now you move, the storeroom's task complete. You think of the snail, its slow journey a mirror of your own, and hope it's found its garden. Maybe it's cheering for the scratched word, a tiny witness to its courage. You smile, picturing it waving a leaf like Gaius with his fan, a champion of impossible hopes. The lamp gutters out, and you step into the corridor, the moonlight guiding you back to the quarters. The villa sleeps, its pulse a distant hum. You think of Clodia, her spiral hidden, and Emilia, her stories weaving stars into the night. The pebble and petal press against you, talismans of a day endured. The word Libertas lingers, a spark in the dark, and you carry it as you walk, one step at a time. The day is long, but the night is yours, if only for a moment. Part 15. The storeroom's darkness lingers behind you as you step into the night, the word Libertas etched in your mind like a star carved in stone. The villa is a shadow now, its walls silent under a sky pricked with countless lights. You're allowed to rest at last, your task's done, and you find a spot outside the slaves' quarters, where the earth is soft, and the air smells of dew-soaked grass and distant olives. You lie back, your straw mat left behind, and let the ground cradle you. It's 100 BC and you, a slave in this Roman villa, gaze at the stars, reflecting on survival and fleeting hopes. Let's rest here, soft as a dream's edge, and let the world fade into peace. The stars are a map you'll never read, their patterns vast and indifferent, yet they feel closer tonight, as if they've leaned down to listen. Your tunic is damp with the day's sweat. The pebble and rose petal still tucked against your skin, small anchors of a life stitched together by moments. You think of Emilius Wanderer, the star she said guided lost souls, and search for it. Your eyes tracing the sky's endless sprawl. The air is cool, a balm against the memory of the vineyard's heat, the kitchen's fire, the whip's crack in the courtyard. You breathe deep, letting the night wash over you like a river from her stories. Rest is a rare gift for a slave, as fleeting as the candlelight in Emilius' tales. Historical records, like those of Cato's agricultural manuals, describe slaves working until exhaustion, their sleep rationed like bread. Yet here, under the stars, you steal a moment of stillness, your body sinking into the earth. You think of the bird's nest in the vineyard, its eggs safe under leaves, and hope they'll hatch soon, tiny wings against this vast sky. The thought is a thread, weaving you to the snail from the atrium, the clay horse, the scratched Libertas in the storeroom, small things that hold you fast. You shift, the grass tickling your neck, and think of manumission, the dream that flickered in the storeroom. Freedom is a word heavier than the sacks you carried, sharper than the needle you stitched with. You imagine standing before the master, his hand granting Libertas, your name no longer a borrowed thing. The image is fragile, easily shattered by the memory of Titus's lashes, the overseer's coiled whip. You think of Gaius, his gap-toothed grin and smirk, picturing him joking. Freedom? I'd settle for a star to sleep under. The jest is a spark, warming you as the night deepens. As you lie there, you notice a peculiar detail, a single firefly, its glow pulsing like a tiny lamp, hovering above the grass. It drifts, aimless but bright, a fleeting rebellion against the dark. You watch it, mesmerized, and think of Clodia's spiral, Emilius' grass braid, the spear and chain tablet, marks of defiance that glow like this firefly, small but stubborn. You imagine showing it to Livia, picturing her dry laugh. A star you can catch, she'd say. The thought steadies you, and you reach out, not to trap the firefly but to let it dance near your fingers. Its light a secret you share with the night. The villa sleeps, its hum faded, but your mind hums with the day's echoes. You think of Livia's melody, the one you've carried from kitchen to workshop to storeroom, and hum it now, soft as the cricket's song. The hum is defiance, a thread tying you to Quintus's patient voice, Titus's endurance. Emilius Rivers. It's a song for the snail, inching toward its garden, and for the eggs, waiting to break free. You hum, and the stars seem to listen. Their light a quiet promise that the world is bigger than these walls. Roman slaves lived lives of constraint, yet moments like this, under the stars, were where dreams took root. Scholars note that slaves often turned to the gods or the sky for solace, their prayers whispered in moments stolen from labor. You think of the foot-shaped charm by the well, the fish carving in the workshop, and wonder if they were prayers too. The firefly drifts higher, its glow fading, and you let it go, your hand falling to the grass. You think of Spartacus, his name a whisper in the storeroom, and wonder if he looked at these same stars before he ran. Scholars still debate whether Roman slaves found hope in such moments, or if the sky only mocked their chains. Did these stars lift you, or remind you of a freedom too vast to touch? For now, you rest, the earth grounding you. You think of the rose petal, the pebble, the crescent stain, talismans of a day survived. You smile, picturing the snail waving a leaf like Gaius with his fan. A tiny champion of your quiet rebellion. The firefly's glow lingers in your mind, a star you almost held, and you carry it as you close your eyes. The night is deep, the villa a distant shadow. You think of Clodia, her spiral hidden, and Emilia, her stories weaving the sky into your dreams. The pebble and petal press against you, secrets of a life endured. You hum Livia's melody one last time, letting it carry you towards sleep. The stars watch, and the wanderer shines, guiding you to a place where rivers run clear and chains are only stories. The day is done, and you rest, one breath at a time, the night yours until dawn. The stars above you fade into the soft blur of approaching sleep. Their light a gentle promise that tomorrow will come, as it always does. You lie on the cool grass, the pebble and rose petal still tucked against your skin. Their weight a quiet reminder of the day you've carried. The villa is silent, its walls no longer pressing, and the night wraps you in its vast, forgiving embrace. Emilius rivers, Clodia's spiral. Livia's hum, they linger in your mind, threads of a life woven through labor and small defiances. The firefly's glow, that fleeting star, dances in your memory, and you smile. Your breath slowing to match the cricket's song. You think of the snail, inching toward its garden, and the bird's nest, its eggs cradled safe. They're out there, enduring, just as you are. The word Libertas, scratched in the storeroom's dark, glows like a coal in your heart, not a promise, but a possibility, as distant and real as the wanderer star. You hum Livia's melody one last time, its notes soft as moonlight, and let it carry you toward rest. The world feels smaller now, kinder, its edges smoothed by the night's touch. You've walked through a day in this Roman villa, each step a story, each moment a spark that no whip can extinguish. Now you can close your eyes and let the currents of time take you away. Drifting on rivers that Emilia might have known, under stars that Spartacus might have seen. The night is yours, warm and steady, a place where dreams are not bound by chains. Sleep comes, slow and sure, and you sink into it, the grass beneath you, the sky above, and the hope of tomorrow tucked safe in your heart.